All right, my people, blessings be multiplied upon you nicely. Welcome, 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 one and all, wherever you are, to the Marriage and More program right here on your number one gospel radio station, Faith FM. Remember, you can find us on faithfmonline.com or you can find us on 98.1. And later on, this program is going to be played on TV Carib at 8 p.m. and then 8 a.m. in the morning. So we are excited to have you with us here on your number one gospel radio station. This program aims to make marriage spicy, dicey, and wonderful. And oh, we want you to have a wonderful time and a wonderful marriage. So blessings be multiplied upon you nicely. Those of you within the diaspora, those of you within the region, those of you right here on Country St. Martin, French and Dutch. Once again, welcome to the Marriage and More program. Today is a special program. But as always, I have with me my beloved wife, and so I'm going to allow her to greet you at this time. My dear wife, greet the people.
Hello. A very wonderful Tuesday afternoon to you. And again, welcome to another exciting program. We are looking forward to spending this afternoon with you. Sit back, relax, enjoy. And may I just say this one time, I'm in the midst of 4 men today.
We are going to baptize her.
I'm making my part clear now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Her baptism is scheduled very soon. Sunday is on the way. I think I have to bring it up to have early baptism. All right, so today is an exciting time. We have a special guest who have been with us at the New Testament Baptist Church over the past week, from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then on Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and we were dealing with spiritual formation. If you missed it, you missed out. But I want to thank those of you who were present. Really appreciate your presence being with us for that transformative session or sessions, those transformative sessions on spiritual formation. He is no stranger to St. Martin. He has been here before. So some might be familiar with him and some may not, but he is no stranger to St. Martin. I have with me Reverend Professor Courtney Richards. He is one of my spiritual mentors, and I thank God for him, and he's here with us on the Marriage and More program. And so I am just going to allow him to greet you, and then I'll come back, establish where we're going for today. Pops, greet the people.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to be with you here in St. Martin. Wow, what a beautiful day outside. Really. This is one of those days you want to capture and keep for rainy days or too hot. Beautiful day, beautiful island, beautiful people. So it's good to be here to share with you. Looking forward to it.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pops, for being here. If you hear me call him Pops, that's how we refer to him, all right? So he is Reverend Courtney Richards. But he is out from Jamaica, lives in the U.S., but he travels the world extensively as a missionary, sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ with persons. And by training, he's a clinical psychologist, but he's so much more than that. He's a mentor to many around the world, help to instill the values and virtues of Christ in so many of us, to ensure that the next generation is not left out and that we have quality leaders and quality people for the sharing and the advancing of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thank you so much, Pops, for the work that you're doing. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's a blessing, really.
Amen. So today on the marriage, before I go, I want to wish Pastor John a very happy birthday. He celebrated belated birthday.
Saturday?
Yeah, he celebrated birthday on Saturday. And yesterday, one of our help us in the kitchen. She celebrated her birthday yesterday. So Nadia, if you're listening, birthday wishes to you belated. And I trust that, well, you see here a smile that she put in.
Very colorful.
So you don't know already. She had a colorful birthday.
Very colorful. And Candice will be celebrating on Sunday coming.
And Candice will be celebrating on Sunday coming. So we have to give you advance birthday greetings. And when we come back, you get in double. When we come back next week, we will make sure we big you up again here on the Marriage Program. Any anniversary?
No, that's what
Not yet.
On Sunday there's an open lot there.
The whole of January is available. All right, my people. So today we are, as promised, we're going to discuss wounds in marriage. Wounds in marriage. We want to talk about that, Pops. And so many persons, they're married, but they have not addressed areas that is important for healing. And so we come into the marriage and they begin to have so much problem within the marriage because now they're speaking more from the wounds than they are from their heart. And I promised our people last week, I've been inciting to it all the time, but I promised our people that we're going to come and we're going to talk about wounds in marriage. Now, on this program, Lady Nanton is the one that normally asks the question, and I stay on even though I start it off, I hand it over to her, and then I stay on top of the listening side, and then we have the conversation going there.
But today the role is in reverse.
But she put the role in reverse. Just because you're coming here, Pop, she put the role in reverse. So we have to schedule baptism for Sunday. So, Pops, we're gonna draw from you because we don't have you every time, but we're gonna draw from you to talk about wounds in marriage. I don't know if you want to take the time to explain or give your thoughts on it first, and then we pick up and have a conversation around it.
Oh yes, this is a very heavy topic, important topic, and there are two sides to it. There's wounds that we bring into marriage, and there are wounds that are caused by marriage or the relationship in marriage. And I have found that the wounds that we bring into marriage are the ones that cause wounds in marriage. So we brought them before. We were wounded before. Because after all, we are all wounded people. And so because of that, we bring wounds into marriage. And then when you have two people interacting, they are prone to dump their wounds on each other, and a lot of this stuff operates at the subconscious level. And so if you want, we can talk about all of that stuff, repression, how we repress our hurts and our pains, and sometimes we suppress them, but more likely repression. We can explain what that means, and then we displace them, we pass them on to other people, unknowingly or deliberately or intentionally, so hurting people hurt other people. So, the usual phrase is hurt people, but we are really hurting people. And so when I do premarital counseling, I always dig up the past deliberately. I tell couples when they're dating, if you intend to get married, you need to be involved in at least 1 year of premarital counseling. I try not to see anybody that if I'm the pastor during the marriage ceremony or a counselor, I try not to see them more than a year in advance, because there are things that will come up that they need to address, and they will look at me and say, that's a long time. I said, well, because you have problems for a long time. and so it takes a long time to unravel all of this, and this is every week for a whole year. So that's a lot of sessions if they take it seriously. Of course, most people don't really need a whole year, at least 6 months. But I say give it a year, because if the counseling session is once a week for 6 months, and there are things that I see, then I'm going to recommend that you not get married until you deal with those things. And so a lot of people rush into marriage. They're not prepared. They're not ready. And they carry over this stuff. So the number one factor that I've found in marital problems are these wounds. And so I'm very happy and delighted that you're dealing with them. That takes a lot of courage, because a lot of people don't want to deal with wounds. They want to paper over these things and pretend that everything is fine. She's so fine. Yeah. She may be fine, or he may be fine, but
it's a fine cutlass.
Oh yeah. They may be sharpening that fineness. have a lot of knives back home or whatever, knives or nails or whatever it is. And so the home, the marriage become a War of the Roses. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It was called War of the Roses. Michael Douglas and whatever her name is. I'm trying to remember. But they were married and they end up being, they hate one another.
Kathleen Turner.
So marriage can end up to be a war zone because we haven't dealt with that. So I'm trying to prevent that from happening by saying to people, you need to have at least 6 months of counseling, but give the process a year in case you may not need a year, but it's better to have a year rather than rush into marriage. As they say, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. You don't see angels get married.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you have it, so it's right there. So
You know, Pops,
Welcome, Uncle Peter. Welcome.
yeah.
Welcome to Pops.
I can just come in here very quickly and say, now I can see why this good gentleman is pastor's man. I'm getting the feeling, I'm getting the vibe.
I see.
It coming across. I love it.
So you're blaming him or me? Yeah. All I did is give them permission to be themselves.
Pops, you know, for years I have avoided talking about wounds. Or, you know, in most cases we say trauma, especially on air. And that's because I'm so careful of opening things that you don't have the opportunity to close. And so I want to say something to our listeners who might be listening. Because sometimes when we begin to talk about certain things, it can be very disturbing for you to hear. And if you think it's too much for you to handle, remember, you have permission of your radio. Feel free if you want to just cut off. That's okay by us. If you're on the live and you just want to cut out, that's okay by us, because sometimes it can become too much. But do me a favor. Realize that you are deserving of healing and pursue it after. Pursue it after, because sometimes these things, depending on how we go to, they can be very heavy for some persons to handle. You know, I remember time, Pops, when I had to call you because we were dealing with some stuff and the heart began to palpitate within 5 minutes. It's just too much, so you have to know. And just in case, but once, if you're able to, I beckon with you, keep with us to the end. So we're going to pray for you right at the end. Okay? Yeah. So, Pops, let's talk about it. You mentioned the whole aspect of wounds before, wounds that are brought in, and those that you experience while in the marriage. Okay? Could we talk a little bit about those that are brought in to the marriage, you know, the impact and the effect of those that are brought into the marriage?
Well, like anything else, if you have a physical wound, for example, and you don't deal with the physical wound, it's not going to go away by avoiding it. What it does is it gets worse and worse until you end up with sepsis. You know, you die from this stuff. So, you know, to avoid a wound is not really helpful. Now, the number one place for woundedness is our homes. Is how we grow up or how we did not grow up. And so the home is principally the place where our formative years are made. And then along the way you date, or you find a girlfriend, you find a boyfriend, and they come with their own wounds, and then they wound you on top of that. I could share millions of stories, not millions, but probably thousands of stories along the way. One is in my head, somebody I know very well. Obviously I can't call their name, although this is well known, but they came into the marriage from a very broken home. One of their siblings ended up in jail, in prison, and they had a lot, her family of her origin had a lot of problems, and she came with that, a lot of the problems, came with that emotional vacuum, the need for love, the need for value, the need to be cherished, the need to belong, this whole sense of affirmation and belongingness, you're worth something, and you grow up and you don't have that, and every time the young man that she was dating, that was my friend, they had a disagreement, she ran back to an old boyfriend. So that was a pattern as we were in school together. And some people saw it and tried to warn him, said, look, this girl has some wounds. She has some issues that you need to deal with before. But they were in love. They were so in love, you know. That you think love can solve this problem when it can't. Love by itself can't solve this problem. Love will create the context in which you can solve the problem. But you have to solve the problem by dealing with the problem, by facing the problem. And she was not willing to admit to the problem. And years later, she went through multiple affairs, let's just call them that, adulterous, more than once, and conceived children. And the marriage ended up on the rocks, in divorce, because of that instance. I give you that example of somebody who was wounded before, brought that into a relationship, and even though people warned them, he thought he would remain with her, and by loving her and being thoughtful, and was a very thoughtful, gentle young man. And I don't believe that he is perfect, but he tried. But she had this kind of attitude, I go to God and I deal with it. I don't need any counseling. I don't need anybody to come and tell me anything. And then it becomes a cantankerous thing, which adds to the problem. And so if you have a problem and you bring it, let's say the problem is on the mathematical scale. Let's use the number 2. You come into the marriage with the problem. It's only going to multiply by 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times what it was before. Because as you interact, because what marriage does, marriage does not get you to heal by itself. What it does, it creates, there's such an interaction, and if you're not whole, the interaction makes the friction even greater. Because you're rubbing against each other every day. You're living together. So it's not a matter of just dating the person where you see them once a day or once a week, depending on the relationship. You're not living together. You sleep in the same bed. So everything becomes magnified.
Exactly.
And so that's why I say deal with the problem from before, because the problem is going to be multiplied many times over. And that's what happened in this case. And to this day, as far as I know, that problem has never been solved, even though the person has been through multiple marriages. And so we see that all over the place, over and over again. You come with something. You come with anger, for example. You come with rage. And may I just say, for a lot of Caribbean women, because we are in the Caribbean, for a lot of Caribbean women, the issue for them is insecurity and codependence, and it comes from how their father treated their mother and how their mothers allowed the father to treat them. And so a young girl growing up there, her woundedness is, well, my role is just to take care of a man because I see mommy stay with daddy all this while he's giving her licks until an inch of her life. No, forget the inch, a millimeter of her life. and she stayed. And so she has that built in her mind subconsciously that she must take licks and so on. And then the boy, his woundedness from not having a father who blesses him, who loves him and cares about him, is and I can tell stories over and over again, is angered. Those are not the only issues, but those are the primary issues. So you put an angry man, he's angry against his father for not being there for him as a man, as a male, and helping him become the man that he's supposed to be. And she now has issues that she gets from her mother, the same gender parent, who says, stay in the relationship. And some of these mothers actually tell their daughters that way, and churches actually. Do we have time to take on churches today? No, we don't. Churches actually preach it. Pastors preach this thing and say you need to stay with the man because you're married till death us do part. To which I say it may be death that make them part.
Yeah.
And are you going to take that responsibility? And I'm not here to say I'm preaching divorce or anything like that. But sometimes you have to separate from a person to save your life and the life of your children.
Yes.
And make sure you don't go back to him until he gets help. Yeah, gets help. So that's a kind of entree into the discussion here today, that you come with this, and that's just one example, but it shows you how our families can wound us and even breakups before other relationships that we have, and how it creates a pattern of behavior in our minds, our mindset, and in our lives that marriage does not solve. And that's why premarital counseling should help with that before. That's why it's called premarital counseling.
It's before. Pops, I want to repeat a statement that you made that I think is very important for person to understand. Marriage does not heal these kind of wounds by itself.
Yeah.
And most persons sometimes they are hoping
Yeah.
that by getting married that it will heal. And so I wanted to emphasize that marriage does not heal these things by itself.
Yeah.
And I think that is very important for persons to hear. Now let's go back to the dynamics of the home. And my dear wife, you can chip in or chime in at any time.
I'm enjoying listening to this. Go ahead.
I see that. You see, it's when Pops there wrong, she calm like cucumber. And when Pops in there wrong,
Nah, I said no.
I have to behave myself. So Pops was sitting nice side of me.
I'm staying out of it. Push no business.
yeah, Pops. But let's the dynamics of the home.
Yeah.
I think that is very important because here is it, Pops. We talk about premarital counseling.
Yeah.
A lot of people only attempt premarital counseling 2-3 weeks, 2 months.
Yeah.
Well, the benefit of the British country is different than us here. In the British country, the pastors are marriage officers. They become marriage officers of the state. But here, we don't have that privilege. So persons don't necessarily have to come to us to be married. However, I have discovered that persons don't feel married until they come to us. So what we issue is certificates of blessing. So we give blessing certificates. So they will go to the civil registry and they will get married by a marriage officer there, and then they come to the church for the blessing. So it's quite different here in St. Martin. In the Dutch system, it's a little bit different.
Okay.
But I've seen persons when they come to us, they will go there in good clothes, but not the married clothes. Not the wedding clothes, you understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
They go there in a nice shirt and tie, sometimes a suit, but it's not the real deal until they come to the church. Then they come with the real deal. Then you see in the wedding dress, and they come with their wedding attire. And then in most cases we go over the full works and so forth. But sometimes we do it with the marriage officers and walk along that way. Because persons, I have discovered, marriage comes from God, and people value the blessing of marriage a lot.
Yes.
It is in the human spirit.
Right.
Okay? But I say that to say this. In the British country I come from, you understand the British system, we have that leverage.
Yeah.
That if a person is going to get married, we can say, until we work with you for 6 months, 3 months, we are not marrying you.
Yeah.
And persons will submit themselves because they want to get married by you.
Yeah.
Okay? And they're willing to submit themselves to the process. Or even better more, we don't say it so blunt. We normally tell them, let us work with you for 3 to 6 months, premarital counseling, because it saves marriage. It works. Yeah. It helps to prepare you so that you will know what you're going in. And then we will perform the wedding ceremony. So we say it in a nicer way. So people just forgive me. I just say it blunt, But you don't have that privilege here. So persons will come 2 months before, 6 weeks before. As a matter of fact, by 3 weeks into the wedding day, you can't get nothing in. They're not hearing anything. You understand? So you have limited time in which you work with persons. One of my challenges here is to get persons to, and I think it's working good for me when I begin to advocate for premarital counseling.
Yeah.
All right. So the idea of 6 months to a year. It can work within the British system quite easily, but it's not the same for here. Some persons, they just go civil registry, get married, and they go. That's it. It's done. You understand? And a year after, 2 years after, in fact, within the turbulent space of marriage, then they're coming to be blessed.
Oh, wow.
So it's quite different with us here.
So
The general rule, sorry.
No, I was going to ask if they need to change the law, the government needs to change the regulation. Jamaica now requires, I was a marriage officer in Jamaica, but I live in America now, so I had to give that up. But Jamaica now requires all marriage officers in the island of Jamaica to do X amount of whatever it is, I don't know the months, X amount of premarital counseling before you marry anybody. And we're not talking about tourists or American tourists who come down and obviously they get their certificate, their legal things done, and they just come for the wedding in Jamaica. That's different. But if you're a marriage officer, you have to offer premarital consent. And if you think the couple are not ready because they're fighting or whatever, you should not marry them by law in Jamaica. So that needs to be addressed because we have seen the disaster that has caused.
Well, I was just about to come there. I think the persons, from what I understand, they meet to the marriage, what is basic?
Yeah.
Basic stuff, from my understanding.
Right.
Okay? And it's limited. It's limited because, you know, in with some, even within the British system, some they meet it 2-3 times and that's it.
Yeah.
Until you understand the dynamics of marriage, you really can't speak to it. I've discovered that in a pub.
Yes.
So we slide certain things. You sit down, you tell the person, listen, you have to have good sex in your marriage. Make sure you talk. Don't go to bed vexed, and that's it.
But
So it's limited sometimes in the preparatory aspect. However, you can find persons now, they are not drawn to premarital counseling. Even in the British system, a lot of people are not drawn towards premarital counseling. So they have learned, here's the point I'm getting to. They have learned to live with the wound in a way that it doesn't seem to affect them until they get married. And I want you to speak to that.
So they have, say this again, that's very powerful.
They've learned to, we can remember, we know how to go into survival mode. So if we have, let me use something. If we have been abandoned, we have developed mechanism to prevent us from feeling the pain of abandonment.
Coping mechanism.
Right.
Yeah.
Coping mechanism. And then now you come into marriage and you realize that your defense is not so strong.
Yeah.
Because marriage have a way of tearing it down, unveiling it, unmasking it, and then you have all kind of issues begin to happen. So I want you to speak to that a bit. You know that the false sense of security that persons will develop within their coping mechanism of dealing with some of the wounds. If you can just talk to that a bit.
That's one side of it, the coping mechanisms that we have. We all, to navigate life, we need to have coping mechanisms.
Yes.
I get that. You can't walk around being a problem-oriented person every day
of your life.
Every day and every minute of your life. So you have to find coping mechanisms to deal with that stuff. But what happens is that in relationships with other people, they can either help you cope or they can undermine your coping strategies. Because if the person comes with equal or greater amount of stress and distress and disorder in their lives, they are going to prick you until it turns out into a big wound or an explosive situation because you have done it. And furthermore, a lot of the things that affect us, if you take a Freudian view of things, which I take some of it. Sigmund Freud was a great psychologist, but he says that a lot of what we do is we have these not coping mechanisms but defense mechanisms. So it's at the subconscious level. Freud argued that about 80% of human personality is at the subconscious level, which means that we're not even aware of it.
Yes,
we need somebody skilled to, and that's why we need counseling to uncover that in a wholesome, healthy, healing relationship. That's why we have trained therapists and those kind of things. And so when you throw two people together without this kind of skilled therapist, you mentioned the issue of sex. Do you know how many people are having sex and not really having sex? They don't even know what they're having.
Exactly.
This is the radio.
No, it's okay. We talk quite openly.
Yeah. I mean, in Jamaica, if I may use Jamaica, because I'm Jamaican, I'm not trying to make Jamaica, to expose Jamaica to the world, but it's slam bam, thank you, madam, that kind of sex.
Yeah.
That is not biblical sex. That's not the sex that God sets out in His word. The two shall become one flesh. Yeah. The Bible talks about it. The two shall become one. So, and my work takes me in Africa. When I talk in Africans, it's only the men who enjoy sex. The women must just be a receptacle for the man. The woman becomes a receptacle for the man. That's correct. And so you have that kind of thing. You have women who are suffering. They're not enjoying it. And I go now to Africa and I'm stirring up cultural things for 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 years.
Yeah.
And saying, women, you are suffering and you are being treated as a piece of meat. And they're like, Baba, we can't talk about this stuff. We're not supposed to talk about this stuff. And so you see what I mean? We learn to cope, they're coping, but they're not happy coping.
No.
They have rage and anger, and at some point, and the men have rage and anger themselves. The women suppress their anger because in Africa, that's a woman. The woman dares to say no. She can't say no because she's gonna get licks.
Yeah.
And so the man dominates the woman. Some of the pastors beat their wives.
My God.
How could that be healthy for marriage? But that's the way they have been taught. And so we're not dealing with these things, and people are suffering silently. In South Africa, for example, there's a lot of gender-based violence as a result.
Yeah.
And the women are the greatest victims. But not only the women, there are men who are victims of violence that we don't know. I mean, I've had friends, married friends, who their wife licking at the head with a frying pan. Lick. I've had another one stabbed in his back with a scissor. And we're talking about Christian couples.
Yeah.
With a scissors, and the only thing that saved his lung from being punctured, he was very muscular. And so she stabbed him at a place where it didn't penetrate into his lung.
The muscle save him.
The muscle saved him.
Wait.
Men, get some muscles. That's the that's the whole thing. So I'm explaining that, these coping mechanisms will work only to a point, and some couples will suffer for 50, 60 years and nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
But they're not happy. That's the other side of it.
Yeah. It can get you sick.
Yes, it can get you sick. They're emotionally sick. It affects your heart. It affects whatever. Body parts. I mean, you get cancer. All these things, are, well, not all of them, but much of our problems, if we have a biological model of medical illnesses. Psychological means mental and emotional stuff, and medical talking about your physical health. You realize that they're all integrated.
Very much.
And so if you're worried and depressed and you're afraid of your husband, and if the husband is alcoholic and he comes in drunk in a stupor, and some of these women, they tell me this, the husband is of no use to them in any way, not just sexually, anyway, because he comes home every night drunk, he's no good, and she has to baby. Some of these women have to go out on the road and pick up their husband and walk him into the house or to the shop.
Public shame.
Yes. So how is that helpful for a marriage? But you see, he comes from an alcoholic family.
Yeah.
I have a friend from in high school. He said, I would never drink a drop of alcohol because his father was alcoholic. He saw the signs from then. And he's married, and his marriage is beautiful because he refused to drink because he was afraid. And they were in my church. I was a pastor. And I led both him and his wife to the Lord. Or they came through my preaching. But he dealt with it. He has been willing to say, listen, this is what I saw in my home. My father being alcoholic and all the dynamics of that in the home. I don't want that for myself. And so the government has to create a space or a policy whereby we encourage people to get counseling. The churches have to be in unity on these things and deal with it, because otherwise these coping mechanisms are not really helpful. They seem to be, and there is a whole lot of displacement and repression and suppression. Displacement is where you have like me, I had anger issues, and you throw it on somebody else.
Yep.
Sometimes it's not a person, sometimes it's an object.
Yeah.
We would not know how many accidents men, for example, drive their car wild and so on because of anger and crash.
Yep.
And even commit suicide, and it looks like a normal accident, but it is not. And so we need, if you don't know the inner workings of the human mind and the human emotions and know people's story, we don't realize that what seem to be coping mechanisms are not coping mechanisms in a healthy sense.
Exactly.
They are coping mechanisms in the sense of they make you survive.
Yeah.
So a woman knows that her man is going to come and beat her every night. What do you have to do? Wherever it is, whether it's the Caribbean or Africa, wherever else, in America, elsewhere, she has to find a way to cope. Because sometimes she says to herself, I can't leave because the children are at risk. Or she don't have the emotional, psychological strength to leave.
Yes.
And he beats her and he tells her these threatening things. And so she suffers long and she just shuts in for 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
And so that's her coping mechanism.
Coping mechanism, exactly.
How is that a marriage? This is not a marriage. We're fooling ourselves. Marriage is supposed to be bright.
That's enslavement.
It is enslavement. It is enslavement, and where you're forced to do something, and forced to do something that hurts and harms you in very terrible ways. And so we need to expose these things. And I'm glad you warned the people on the radio. That's very, very important. Don't open your wounds if you're listening to this program, unless you can get help, and if you need to call somebody here. Well, I'm leaving today, so don't call me. But no, it's
No, but
important.
that's important. We have
important.
persons can call us and we
Call-
can speak
yes,
to them.
yes.
And if we need to refer you, then I'll refer you.
Yeah.
Because we have those connections.
Yes, because the last thing we want to do is for some woman to be hearing this and say, "Oh my God, this is my life."
Which more than likely is going to happen.
It's going to happen, and then she
Yeah.
becomes suicidal, or she was already, and have nobody to help her. We have to be able, and there are people, so you have to call.
5540919, or you could call us at the radio station 553-2484.
Yes.
You know, it pops. These are the reasons. You know, for years, persons have asked for me to talk about these things on the radio, and that was my only stop. You know,
Yeah.
that was my only plug, because I know what these things can do.
Can do, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
some persons could almost jump from one parallel to the next, straight into depression.
Yeah.
It can do real harm. So that's why I put that disclaimer out front, and let persons know, if it's too much for you, it's okay for you to take off the radio. It's okay for you to come off the live.
Yeah.
That is okay.
Yeah.
But I don't want you to stay there. Reach out for help. We're here, and we want to walk with you. We want to walk with you.
Very good.
So
May I just
so
quickly
that you
say
can be
something
good.
about the children, because we're talking about marriage, I know, but marriage produces children.
Yes.
And we would be remiss to overlook the children, because the children are watching and experiencing all of this stuff.
Oh, yes.
They sometimes have to jump in fights and part daddy and mommy fighting,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they themselves become victimized, not just because of that, but sometimes the wrath, the rage is directed at them, the child. And of course, I always tell parents, you know, your child is not going to remain a child forever.
No, they're gonna grow.
They're going to grow, and they're going to become man and woman, and they're going to either repeat those things or rebel and leave you, and you never see them again, or they may end up killing you. I mean, there are all kind of a whole spectrum of responses that are possible. And so that is why we need to get help for people and create these spaces. I hope some pastors and leaders are listening to this as well, because they need to do what they can. We all need in our churches to create that kind of healing space. I don't know if you are familiar with Larry Crabb. Larry Crabb had two great books. One he calls Connecting, and the other one, The Safest Place on Earth. And in The Safest Place on Earth, it's talking about the church being a healing community. And he says the church ought to be the safest place on earth. We must now lock arms. I love that image, where we lock arms with people as they journey on. It's a powerful, powerful image. And he actually identified, he says most of the psychological disorders do not need psychologists, trained therapists. They need a healing community to belong. And you can give those people basic training. I just did some lay counseling training in Africa, and we're going to add a bachelor's program. We're hoping in Rwanda and Burundi. So it is necessary for us to create those kind of spaces for our children, as well as for the couples who we're talking about today.
Bob says, here's part of my problem with, and I mean, we're seeing progress, and I'm happy for that. But part of my problem with within the church community is that we forsake the necessary training to deal with certain issues. We are, I think, one of the institution, we are one of the institutions that deal with things from the womb to the grave. And it's very important for persons to obtain the necessary healing. Now, why do I say that? I speak primarily to marriages, and one of the most disturbing things for me is to hear persons, sometimes on radio, solely talking about their experience and what they have been informed as a result of the experience, and it is bad information.
Right.
So, for example, a woman was on the radio one time, and she said, "Me, I just learned to keep quiet." Quietness doesn't solve everything. There are times you have to confront certain things, but you have to know how to go about doing it. And I am there, and she said, "That's why I was married. I think it was for 40-something years, because I said, wives, you have to learn to keep quiet. You talk too much." And here, and the announcer on the radio was saying, "Amen." And she had a team with her. Wow. And I am driving, I am listening. My wife was there with me. Pops, I get vexed, and I begin to be like, bad information. You see? So the aspect that you're mentioning there, the importance of being trained is very important. You can't deal with certain issues out of ignorance.
Yes.
It's very important for us to have information.
Yeah.
But let me share an experience with you that I was privy to, that I think you can speak on as you talk about what the children see at home. There was this young man, and he saw his mother being unfaithful to his father. In fact, he was sometime the one who will be the watch, the security.
Wow.
And that young man grew up. I don't think he's even overcome that issue. But he grew up to treat women as trash. He never value woman up to I don't think he's over it. Up to today, as far as I know, women are not seen as valuable.
Yeah.
Because in his mind, what my mother did to my father, every woman is going to do it. So sometimes people don't realize the children are learning something.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
You know, and he has a hatred for women, a serious hatred for women, because every woman in his own eyes, from my observation, is like his mother.
Yeah.
They will do the same thing. They cheat, they lie, they whatever. So he grew up with that. And I just wanted to share that, because persons have to realize that the children are looking, and some of them, the majority, I would say, the majority don't know how to deal with that adult stuff that you are just dashing up on them.
Yeah.
You know? So I thought that point was so powerful that persons begin to understand that children become broken in the midst of that marital war zone.
Well, it's the same thing for if he sees his father sleeping around and calling women all kind of names that we can't
it got the same way.
We can't utter on the air. He sees the boy sees women as an object. He objectifies, and so we see it around the Caribbean a lot. You know, and then when you add that to the music of the day and how how the women just fling themselves on a man, so the objectification of a woman. Now women are fighting back and objectifying males. Men. Yes, men are being objectified.
Yes, true.
And I have boys in Jamaica. I used to run a summer camp for my denomination, 100 and something, 15 to 17-year-old camps, and the boys would come to me. I couldn't believe this in Jamaica, because when I was a boy, we were the dominant person.
Yeah.
And to hear boys telling me that, no, it's Uncle Courtney, that's what they call me at camp. Uncle Courtney, it's the girls who are dominant, and they're telling you size and all this kind of thing, and they want to touch it. I mean, it's a crazy world. So you have your children growing up in a culture, and the family is unbalanced and dysfunctional, and the school is dysfunctional, and the popular culture is dysfunctional. It has great impact. And I think that, when you were talking a while ago and giving the example of the boy watching his mother, and he had to be the watch person and so on, and how people keep, the woman who kept quiet. I was reminded of Lewis Smeads' I don't know what to call it. It's not a commentary, but an exposition on 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter.
Yeah.
And there's a verse that says, love suffers long. And Lewis Smeads says, love suffers long, but it shouldn't suffer certain things. Wow.
That's deep.
That is deep. Love suffers long,
but it shouldn't suffer certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's heavy.
It's heavy. And he says, anything that violates you as a person, you should not suffer it. You should not put up with it. Because you're made in the image of God, and you should not just let people just treat you any old way. You must stand up for that.
Unfortunately, people submit to that.
Yeah.
The violation of them as a person, their value, their dignity.
Yeah.
Puff, that is deep, man. Yeah. Emphasize that, Puff. I want us to go and talk about wounds in marriage, but I needed to elaborate on that.
Yeah.
That's because you see what happened? We embrace abuse.
Yeah.
And we teach people to embrace it.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, sometimes in the name of God. And that is bad.
Yeah.
just because you're in the church, there are limitations. There are abuse that just should not be tolerated.
That's right.
You
That's
cannot be beating the person tea, breakfast, and dinner, and think it's okay.
Yeah.
You understand? She was not designed. He or she, because men get it too.
Yes.
There was a gentleman in St. Vincent. In fact, let me go as far as Union. We know a gentleman in Union. He's passed away now, but he was getting good blows from his wife.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what happened, Pops? We used to laugh at it.
Yeah.
But the guy had nowhere to turn.
Yeah.
Because if you report that you're getting blows from your wife, people laugh after you.
You're
so
a man.
you're a man.
Yeah.
So men tend to keep it in, and the world begin to think that they're men who are not, but there are men who are getting good licks.
Yes.
But in the other way, where the lady is the one, she have a lot of avenues for justice, which is good. But I don't think abuse should be tolerated at all, at any level. Physical abuse is easily seen in a lot of cases, but sometimes sexually, emotionally, people are being abused in their marriage and it's not talked about.
Yeah. So those are the things that Smith mentioned, because abuse, verbal, sexual, physical abuse, emotional abuse, all of these kinds of things hurt us at our humanity.
Yeah.
And we're made in the image of God. We should be valued. We should be cherished. We should be loved. We should be cared for. And if you have somebody calling you all kind of names, so the men lash out physically, and the women, I'm generalizing, and women usually lash out verbally.
Verbally, yeah.
But it's not always the case, as you just demonstrated. I have said to my students and to my mentees, sons and daughters alike, I said, anytime somebody hits you once in a dating relationship, I was particularly talking about dating or marriage, that should be the last.
Yeah.
That should be the last. That is a signal that something is wrong with this person that needs to be fixed, that needs to be dealt with. And they must go and address it, because if they hit you once, they're likely to hit you again. And don't allow it to happen again, because you need to value yourself. And the same thing, they cuss you out and call you all kind of names. That in itself damages your humanity, who you are as image bearers of God. The same passage we're talking about on Sunday, chapter 4, 5, and 6 of Ephesians. It starts out about live a life worthy of God, but the next verse talks about love. And over and over again, it talks about love. Why is that so? Because love is is the epitome of God's divine holiness and love, or truth and love. Those three things, truth and holiness and love, are intertwined. And you can't love somebody and not tell them the truth, but you must tell them the truth in love.
Yes.
And love means you value the person, you treasure the person as somebody of worth. Of worth. When you cuss somebody and call them, and you box him up and thump them up and stab them, you do not value. You know this incident that I referenced on Sunday about the young man who was killed in America.
Yeah.
And as I said, I'm not getting into the politics of it. I cannot tell you how many times I've cried over this. I don't mean I bawl, but I just watching the video and tears just come to my eyes, because I see a human being just being shot like that. And the last person who shot him with 5 shots when he was already on the ground, having been shot by somebody else. One of the officers shot him first. And I'm like, why would he need to shoot him another 5 times when he's on his back or his belly lying on the ground? Prone, he couldn't move.
Yeah.
And it just hit me that oftentimes we don't value each other. It's just, and and the same thing goes in so many of human relationships and in marriage. You marry the person to satisfy your needs. It's not because you value the person. It's because you want your needs to be satisfied, whether sexually, or they must cook for you, or must wash for you, or they must bring in the money to take care of you, or buy you a car, or whatever it is, or a house to live in. We have all of these utilitarian needs that need to be taken care of. And if the person don't give it to us, then, and even when they give it to us, we want other things, and then we lash out our true selves. So that's another thing about marriage. It brings out our true selves, because that's where you're going to live out the rest of your life. After all, if most people people marry in their 20s and 30s and you live to be 70, 80, you're going to live most of your life as a married person.
Yeah.
All things being equal. And some people have been married. I was reading the other day, Elizabeth Taylor, the actress, was married for 8, 9 times. We had Larry King, who was, Larry King was on CNN.
Yes.
He was married 8, 9 times. Michael Manley, a former Prime Minister of Jamaica, was married for, I think, 5 or 6 times, and he married even some of his friends' wives. I mean, it's interesting how that happened.
Yeah.
But you see, these are people with issues, and those issues get conveyed. Why would you need to be married for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times? Except that says something about you.
Yep.
And it says something about the people who marry you.
Exactly.
Why would they trade themselves so that the first question they should ask is, what's wrong with this person that they couldn't maintain a marriage for 1 time? And I can get 2, but you start adding up 3,
4
4
times.
No, something
Question.
wrong. Yeah.
Pops, I'm gonna probe your mind to a very sensitive area. We were doing a certificate level program on sexuality, and one of the professors was sharing with us that when he was going for his doctorate, they called something kinks, and so he was sharing the amazing things not amazing, but it was amazing the things that people do in sexuality.
Yeah.
And for some persons, licks,
Yeah.
it excites.
Oh, yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So I'm saying that to say this now. For some people, if licks is not a part of it, they don't feel the love of it.
Yeah.
Those things still happening, unfortunately. In an enlightened world, it is still happening. The confusion so when you talk about abuse there, for some people that is normal. That is what love look like. That is what love should be.
Yeah.
You want to speak to that a bit more?
Yeah. Well, it's called, in psychological terms, it's called sadomasochism. It's a big word. Sadism is inflicting pain on somebody for pleasure.
Yeah.
Masochism is receiving pain, having pain inflicted on you for pleasure. And so you combine that sadomasochism into a sexual relationship where one receives the pain and one gives the pain. And it goes so far now as people actually not just beating with one another, but biting one another and using all kinds of implements, whether it's dildo or vibrators, and sticking into all kind of orifices. It's too descriptive for the ear of the human body.
Yeah.
Tying down in bed.
Yeah.
Tying down the person so you're immobile. So your hands are tied, your legs are tied, and you can't escape. This is slavery right there. And a lot of the music videos, a lot of the popular culture, whether it's dancehall, whether it is rap in America, whatever it is, magnifies these things.
Oh, yes.
And glorifies these things. And of course you can watch movies, all the pornography that surrounds all these kind of things, and it sullies the mind, because remember now, pornography objectifies. It's not the person they're focusing on. The sex is an object. The person is an object.
Yeah, it conveys a false understanding.
A false understanding. Yeah, and so you can do whatever you want with an object.
Yeah.
And a lot of the sex is transactional. Or in other words, I will do this to you and then you'll get something afterwards. I'll take you on a holiday to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Or to St. Martin. or Jamaica for that matter. Yeah. So, when you objectify sex in that way, there are no limits. There are no limits. You can do whatever you want. And it's an arrangement between those two persons.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's multiple partners. Sometimes it's 3 people. And sometimes it's homosexual or lesbian or one person. It's a crazy
Or a combination.
A combination. That's what I was saying. What I was about to say. One person is hetero, 2 is homo, or they might be queer. It's a whole mix of things going on in our world. Yeah. Because people are looking for heightened enjoyment and ecstasy. It's like a drug. That's what it is. It's like a drug. So sex become a drug. There is sexual addictions.
Yes.
And so we don't talk about these things, but we need to talk about these things. Why would somebody allow themselves to be reduced, to be beaten and tied down, when you have no control over what happens to you? No control.
It's wounds brought in.
Yes. Yeah.
And there are persons who come into marriage with that understanding.
Yes.
And they expect, be the husband or the wife, they expect their spouse now to do the same thing. And if the spouse doesn't reproduce it, it's a problem.
There's a problem. Because if you have been involved in pornography, and this has been your steady diet from high school, actually, some of the boys and young men that I know have been involved in pornography have been from, or even sex. I mean regular sex, I'm not talking about pornographic sex. Person-to-person sex. They tell me, and most of this is in Jamaica and America, because these are the two places that I've lived. They claim from they were in primary school. Some of them. One boy told me in Jamaica at a all-age school. This is primary. He was 12 at the time. I asked him his age. He said he was having sex when he was 5 years old. 5. Yeah, so you grew up in a tenement yard where everything happens. I've been to Kailisha. I don't know if you know Kailisha. You haven't been to South Africa. Kailisha is the second largest township in South Africa behind the one in Johannesburg, Soweto. And so it's millions of people, 2 million people, whatever it is. So there's a lot of close proximity. So everything that is done is seen. So the girls go and get ready to go to school in the morning, and their men who just feel them up or fondle them or whatever it is. That's the reality. And you grew up like that all your life. You have no sensitivity and the blessing has been removed. Exactly. You don't have any self-worth and self-value because you live in such close proximity. Your mother has a string of boyfriends who sleep with her one after the other, and then you yourself start early. And the boy now sees men doing this stuff, so he, in his mind, that's what a boy does.
Yeah.
So this boy told me, 5 years old, he was having sex. Because he grew up in Trenchtown or Jungle or one of those places in Jamaica. Rima. Trenchtown is where Bob Marley is from. And so all of this goes into their psychological development. And so it forms who they are and how they must relate to the opposite sex and relate to themselves.
Yeah.
Is relate to themselves is the crucial thing, because you can't relate to another person better than you relate to yourself. Yeah. You have to, that's why the Bible says you love others as you love yourself. As you love yourself. And so there's a whole, I use the imagery in therapy of onions. You have to peel off layers upon layers. And it goes back to your point again, if people are not ready, don't peel them. Don't peel off the layer. That's a thing not just for radio programs, but in counseling we tell them don't open up a person if you don't have time to close it. Because you're going to leave. You can't send them home like this. And so we have a lot to talk about. And I'm talking about now we in St. Martin, we in the Christian community, we around the world. I just get to have the calling to travel the world and talk about some of these things. But we're woefully undertrained and underprepared. And in the midst of that now, we're having church. And so church becomes a way again to hide our true selves. To hide our true selves.
Exactly. And that's the part we have a problem with, you see, because ever so often it manifests.
Yeah.
And it is interpreted as ungodly. Instead of seeing it's broken. But listen, we could go on for the, but I want to go into the other aspect because there are two aspects now. That is wounds before, and I want to go into wounds in the marriage now because those are two aspects. And if, at the end we can talk about some steps persons can take towards healing. I think that is important. Yeah. So that's wounds before marriage, and it would have been interesting. I think we could really unpack that, what it looked like afterward. But let's talk about wounds in marriage.
Well, the two things are related, as we said before, but some things only crop up when you actually get married. Let's start with something simple. I mentioned it, I think, on Sunday. If a husband and a wife can't agree as to who must sleep on which side of the bed, I mean, to psychologically and spiritually mature persons, you would say, what's the problem here? There's no problem. But to a person who feels comfortable with all their life, they have slept on the right side of the bed and you're sleeping on that side, that can become, again, the War of Roses.
You're taking my space.
Yes. This is just because, from a baby to an infant to a toddler to a primary school student, right through, you slept on, and this is just something simple that I know has created problems.
Yep.
Let's take something as simple as squeezing the toothpaste. That has become problems in marriages because one squeezes it from all over and one squeezes it from the bottom up. and that becomes a problem. Let's take something as simple as somebody said, a husband actually said this. I don't like my wife cooking stew peas for me because she don't cook it like my mother.
Mm.
And I'm like, but this is your wife. Did you expect your wife to cook like your mother? Then you should have married your mother. Of course, I didn't mean that.
I understand.
I was trying to
convey the point.
I was trying to convey the point. If you think your wife is going to be your mother, then you should really have married your mother, because your wife is your wife. She's going to cook
She's different.
stew her way,
Yeah.
or the way she learned it from her mother, or she might not even have learned it. And he was just, boy, Pastor, make me can't eat stew because it's not like how my mother used to cook it. I would quarrel over me. I tell her so what to put in it, and she'll fight me over that stuff. So that's something that came up in marriage that really was the way she learned, but they didn't know that before.
And the poor wife must be trying to please the husband. And
He-
she must probably
she-
understand he
she
loved this
was.
trophy.
She was trying to please the husband, and she tried her best. There are women that I've counseled who didn't even know how to cook. It is in marriage that they learn how to cook.
Yeah.
They never had to cook. Their mother cooked everything, and there's where parents fall down. They didn't train their daughters and their sons, because why must be the wife alone who cook? Your husband can cook as well.
True.
And so they didn't know. But good thing for them, the ones that I'm thinking of just now, they learned to cook, and now they've become brilliant cooks. They've been very good at it. But it took a while for the husband to be patient with his wife until she learned. So these are things that come up in marriage. Let's say the thing about, let's look spiritual. Your father is a good, strong Christian and always had devotions every morning with the whole family. And now your husband,
He ain't doing that.
yeah, ain't doing that. He doesn't know he doesn't know where to start. He has never been exposed. He grew up totally different.
You're not a man.
Yes.
You're supposed to call the family together.
God, yes.
You're not doing it.
There you go. You're the priest in the house.
Priest of the house.
Yes, the priest of the house. And he's like, but I don't know what to do. I've never done this stuff.
Yeah.
I've never done this stuff. Nobody taught him. Nobody told him that he was a priest. He said, why don't you do it? So, see? He's abrogating his responsibility. He is supposed to assert himself and take the leadership. I have to be doing all of those things. I have to listen to those kinds of things in counseling and hear people quarrel over that. But that came out in marriage. Simple things now become a war and a tussle or a hatred. And say, yes, you wear the pants, but you're not a man. You're not the priest.
That's an insult, man.
Yeah.
That's breaking Bob.
Yeah.
You've broken your husband right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have the issue of a woman who is, now let's switch it around, a woman who's a dominant personality.
Yeah.
And her husband is, I don't want to say shy, but he's more softer tone and withdrawn. He is the melancholic temperament that we talked about the other night. And he doesn't raise his voice and kind of stuff. And she wants a man that is more forceful.
Yeah.
But when they were dating, she wasn't spending time noticing that at all, because they were in love.
Oh.
They were in love. And so she overlooked. But now you're married, she see that, wait a minute, I'm not getting the kind of conversation that I want.
You should call him soft.
Soft.
You need to be a man.
Yes. Yeah. And so that comes out, and of course if he has things buried now, which we all have, we have things that come out, then that is going to bring out the overture. So what I've discovered is that a lot of times in marriage is the little things that really cause greater problems. And especially when they remain uncovered, you don't deal with them, is what I mean. You don't face them, you rather let them stay there and simmer until one day it just explodes.
Yeah.
It's like a pressure cooker, Everybody knows a pressure cooker. I hope our listeners know.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, you use it. Steam builds up in the pressure cooker.
And then
Yeah, and anybody knows a pressure cooker. You can't just turn off the fire and take off the lid.
No, sir, you leave it right there.
Yeah.
Let it steam up.
Yeah. The steam has to go down. Yeah. So, and if you're really rushing, you have to pour cold water on it for quite a while. to get it to that point. So you understand that when you have these little things building up over time, and that's why most marriages end after within 5 or 7 years, the first 5-7 years of marriage, or after 20 years. And people say, why 20 years? Because the marriage gets stale. You've been living together and you've been putting up with foolishness, and you think you're satisfied, but you haven't been satisfied. You didn't have allow yourself the occasion to go and get marriage enrichment seminars and those kind of things. And now that you're in your midlife,
You're ready to go.
yes, you now have to create a new life structure, and the women are in menopause, and they're asking all kind of questions, and the men are in andropause, and he's going through all of this stuff, and men say, I don't know.
They've renamed it now, the Great Divorce.
yes.
Yeah, Great Divorce. They call it Great Divorce
Great
now
divorce,
because people reach over 50 and they
Yes.
decide they begin to realize, I'm going dead just now. I deserve some happiness.
Yeah.
And we have seen persons perhaps where to tap into the point that you make, where persons constantly demean their spouse. Let me use the man.
Yeah.
You keep demeaning him. You keep seeing him less than.
Yeah.
You need to be a man. You need to be a man. And then he meets another woman, and then his only claim is, she makes me feel like a man.
Ah, man. Yeah.
What he is saying is that the last relationship he was in, he was demeaned as a man.
Yeah.
And now he says, this one makes me feel like a man. You ask, what does that mean? Well, number one, she don't insult me. She doesn't use derogatory statements in public. And here people begin to explain this kind of stuff because of the issue that was in the marriage. So people have to be very careful. And sometimes those wounds, perhaps I don't know, maybe you could heal them, but I find some of them is very difficult.
Very difficult. Well, Hurley in his book, His Needs, Her Needs, talked about.
Oh, that's a good book.
That how the man needs to be treated as a king, even if he don't act like a king, he
Needs
needs
to be treated.
It's a need, It's not necessarily he wants it, he needs it. He needs to be treated as a king. And the woman wants conversation, and she wants you to value her and treat her lovingly and those kind of things. But the man wants a bit, and the man wants peace and quiet. It's amazing. He will make noise, but he doesn't want the noise.
Nobody, no make no noise with me.
Yeah. He doesn't want the woman to make noise ahead, but he makes noise with sports and all this kind of thing, and make whoop a noise.
Yeah.
And goal, and play the domino and shout, and wife will come and say, wait a minute. The whole you make noise right now, but that's a masculine noise.
Yeah. The noise of champion.
Yes, the lion in us. Yeah, the lion. Yes, so you have all these kind of things. So you're realizing just this little bit over now how many things we have covered. Marriage should not, and that's why the original marriage vows, speaking from the British, the original Anglican vows, which is what I've been using in recently. Where was I? Was it in Africa? Yes, with this young man and his girlfriend that got pregnant outside of marriage in Africa. I've been taking them to, and I quoted the original British Anglican, marriage. Marriage is not to be entered into lightly or inadvisedly, it says.
Sir.
But sincerely, because marriage is entered into before God, it's sacred before God and man. And it goes further into this holy estate these two people now come. So we realize that people can't just jump in a marriage and jump out of marriage. That's why they're jumping in and out, because they have not realized that marriage is before God and others. Yeah. And it is not something light. You're joining with a person. And you're joining with their families, by the way, which is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
If you have another session on in-laws, that's a whole different
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, the in-laws, man. That's a problem, yeah.
Bobs, listen, I want us to, we got to take a little bit more time. We want to talk about the healing process. A few things, because, we have covered, we have talked about a lot of areas, and I don't want us to close the program without talking about the path towards healing. And I know your advice become very important there. Advise our people on the healing part. Speak towards the need and the journey of healing.
Well, my philosophy of counseling and healing always starts at me. In other words, before you can fix other people, you have to fix yourself.
Pop said it again, man. Yeah.
The process of healing starts with me, not with the other person, with me. And before you can fix other people, and you can't fix other people in actual fact, they have to want to be fixed. You can offer them avenues and outlets and steps to be for fixing or fixedness, whatever the word is, but they have to want to take that journey themselves.
Pops, I want you to emphasize that. You know why? Maybe my brain is going too much, but trauma is a broken lens.
Yeah.
And people seldom see that they need to be healed.
Yeah.
They always see you need to be healed.
Yeah.
The language is you need to be healed. You this, you. It's never I need to be healed. And sorry to cut you there, but that's why I jump in, because I just call it trauma does not cause people to see that they're broken. They often see the other person as broken.
Correct.
So if I want to just jump in and actually elaborate on that, and let persons understand the need for them to begin to take the initiative towards healing.
And it's very tough, I need to say this, it's very tough, because I've counseled girls, wives who are molested by their own father.
Yeah.
That's tough. The mere fact that they were willing to come to it, because sometimes I'm stunned. The mere fact that you're coming to a male counselor shows some level of bravado and courage, because normally it's the last thing. I usually encourage those women to at least first go see a woman counselor. If the molester, if the abuser is a male, that is a very hard hurdle, because you can easily transfer that onto the therapist.
Yes.
And you know what transference and counter-transference and these kind of issues. So the mere fact that they're doing that says something in itself. But you can't fix others if you're not fixed yourself. I like what John Eldridge says. He says, all of us are wounded. And he was talking about men, but women. All of us are wounded. And he says, men, most of us are wounded by our fathers. Yeah. So we're all wounded. So if you start with that model that all of us are wounded, because the Bible says all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. That's woundedness right there. We're all wounded. And the person who tells that they're not wounded, that's the person with the most wound. Yeah. If you say you have no wound, then something is terrible wrong with you, because there's only one perfect human being that ever walked the face of this earth, and it's Jesus Christ himself.
Yep.
So when people tell you, say, no, man, we have no problem, there goes the problem right there.
Real problem.
There goes the problem. So what I tend to do with people therapeutically is tell them to go stand and look themselves in the mirror. It's a Gestalt technique. Gestalt means whole. So you go and emotionally put yourself before a mirror and face yourself and say, Courtney Richards, you know you have problems. You know you're suffering from anxiety, or you have anger issues, whatever you recognize. Start talking to yourself like that. Don't talk when other people are around. They might think you're mad if they hear you talking to you. So I always want people not to do that when other people are around. But get into your private space and begin this conversation.
Yeah.
Which itself takes courage. Because a lot of us want to dismiss our own pain and so on. And I understand the person has been traumatized. It takes a lot. But if you're going to heal not only yourself but your relationships, it has to start with a first step. And the first step is confronting yourself and saying, one of the things I say to people, tell yourself that you're worth more than this. I am worth more than this. I don't have to be this way. I don't have to put up with this marriage. I want to take better care of myself. And if each person do that in the marriage, then we begin to find a marriage that is going to work, because each one of them talking to themselves in the mirror before they can go talk to anybody else, face themselves and say, you know what, I'm a broken person.
Yeah.
I'm a broken person. I was I'm still a highly successful person. And I never thought I had any problem. I thought it was always the other people's problem until I was doing clinical psychology in America, in Chicago, in graduate school. And I was faced to deal with this stuff myself. Then I realized, you know what? I have been carrying this stuff for so long and never knowing that I was carrying it. I always felt that other people made me angry, but it was my father wound. My father left and his family denied that I was his child, and it was a wound. But because I was so highly successful in school and leadership and everything from I was 3 years old, I was elected a leader at every level, including representing Jamaica and all this kind of stuff. I realized I didn't need any help because I'm successful.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Until I was unmasked in group therapy of no lesser place before others. And so I say to people gently but firmly, look at yourself in the mirror. And you know yourself. You're not going to know everything about yourself because you can't see the back of your head. You can't see what's behind you. You can't even see your face. But look at yourself and say, I have issues. I've been wounded by my father. I've been wounded by my mother. One of the hardest things I must tell Pastor and Sister Nanton, one of the hardest things for me was to admit that my mother wounded me in some ways. Because my mother was a good parent.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to dump off on the bad parent, my father, who was living in England, so he was never be there for me to really tell him about what I thought about him. And when I did see my father, I was, well, by the time of therapy, I mean, I went to England and visited him. He was already in a nursing home and he had stroke and so on. So I couldn't tell him anyway because the damage was done. He was sick and he needed me more than I needed him.
Yeah.
So I prayed for him. Do you know that this man, when I went to see him on the insistence of my mother's brother, my uncle, who also lived in England, in Birmingham, he said, you need to go see your father. And I said, no, I don't have any relationship with my father. He says, go see your father. I'm taking you with me.
Wow.
To go see your father. I'm a big man now, you know, and my uncle is forcing me to go see my father. And just pray for your father. And my father never asked me a question about myself. He asked me about my older brother, who was the same son.
Wow.
I said, what kind of wickedness? This is what I said in my mind, but I easily dismissed it because I said to myself, I have gone through this process of healing. I'm not going back there.
Yes, exactly.
I don't deserve this. I'm not going back there. My father obviously didn't know and didn't care. And he asked me, how is Leslie? How is he doing? I'm like, wait a minute. Then I make a look for him. What about me? But I let it go because I had worked through the issues. And that's what the working through issues does. It gives you power over the issues rather than the issues have power over you.
Yeah.
That's very, very important. Because when you can't face something, it means it has power over you.
Exactly. It dominates you.
It dominates you.
It tells you how to behave, how to respond.
Of course.
Yep.
Yes. And it comes out in unconscious ways that you don't even know. And then you surprise yourself sometimes. And your thought life and so on. And you might even have dreams. I have unmasked people's dreams. People come to me about their dreams and say, is this a dream that is repeated on many occasions? And they said, I never thought about that, so I think about it. And when they say yes, I said, tell me the patterns of your dream. And I could trace right back to their childhood or whatever it is. There's a beginning. If it's just one straight dream, I said, probably you ate curry goat, spicy curry goat, too late at night. You know, but what I'm saying here is it has to start with yourself. And I'm going to say this one step at a time. Be patient with yourself, as I told the church the other night. How do you climb a mountain? One step at a time. And this is a mountain in your life. Don't try to take on the whole thing at one stroke. Don't eat a dumpling. Just to swallow the dumpling. Go and choke you. Take one
bite.
And
then chew.
Yeah, chew. Make sure you chew. You're sticking in your craw.
But perhaps you know that the aspect of, let me use the term trauma, speaking to persons in dreams. A lot of times persons interpret that as a divine message, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not that case.
Sometimes it's not.
I mean, God do speak in dream, we understand that.
Of course.
But sometimes persons interpret it divinely when they don't realize it's the wound that is talking to them.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say that so people understand they have to be very careful.
Yeah.
That not everything that appears spiritual is spiritual. Sometimes it's just that you need to be healed. Yeah.
And I've had people come to me and say they've gone to this crusade and they've talked to this prophet and they told them the dream and they give big interpretation.
Oh my God.
And then I'm saying I can't say anything is wrong with what the prophet, because I don't know what you said to the prophet. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But tell me about the dream, because I'm looking for patterns over time. And when I look at the patterns, I can make the connections with their trauma or whatever it is. So it's not that one is wrong or the other, maybe both.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes we're looking for easy answers and they're no easy answers. So face yourself in the mirror. It's a comfortable thing. It's uncomfortable, but it's comfortable, meaning that you don't start by telling the whole world your problem.
Yeah.
Because that's too difficult. Start with yourself, and then next, if you have a friend, everybody should have a friend or friends and prayer partners, spiritual friends, spiritual people who journey with them, prayer partners and those kind of things. And then start sharing with somebody who can affirm you and listen to you and so on. And they don't have to be trained, but they can listen and they can pray with you. And if and where necessary, the thing is too huge a load to carry, because the Bible says, each one shall carry his own load. The same passage, Galatians 6. But it says, bear one another's burdens. Yes, so there's a load too heavy to carry, and each one shall carry his own load is a word for like backpack or knapsack. So there are things that you have to do for yourself, and there are things where you need the help of others. So that's it. Start with yourself, get the help of others, get therapy where needed and counseling where necessary, and make sure that you get the help you can. Remember, you can't fix the other person, but if each person in the marriage starts with that, and don't nag the other person to go get help. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
Don't nag them. Suggest it and say, honey, let's go together.
Yeah.
That's a more plausible. That might work more than you tell them, you need to go.
Exactly, because it's not like an accusation.
Yeah. Anytime you start to say,
you think I'm broken.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And you can say, well, I am going to counseling, and I found it very affirming and helpful, and I'm willing to go with you. The two of us can go and work on things. Make it look like something you're going to work on and get help, rather than say, you have problems and you're a sick man or whatever it is. Don't make accusations and those kind of things. So those are some of just the broad principles that can help each person to deal with their marital issues, marital problems, marital struggles. And I would encourage St. Martin to come up with a policy where all couples are encouraged or required to get some level of counseling, but let's get some than none at all before they get married. It's a vital thing.
I think it's very important. I am a strong advocate of counsel, and I've said to persons, it saves premarital counseling, save life.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why we come up with this, we have been talking about marriage for a long time, but ever so often with some of the topics, I keep inciting that wounds. And then I said to my wife, let's come back and talk about wounds in marriage so people understand, because it speaks loud, but not without words.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people don't know to understand it. You see, for example, something that people go through, every conversation becomes very sensitive.
Yes.
And they don't realize the sensitivity is because it is touching something that you have. Every disagreement feels like rejection because there's something greater. Silence feels like abandonment. There's something greater that needs to be addressed. And but Pops, we all have this. We all have these touch points. Exactly.
Something touches something off. And when you're a sensitive person, it could be anything.
Anything. And everybody.
Yes. And the other side of it are people like myself who it took one of my spiritual sons to point out to me that I hold on to things too long.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not just the sensitivity, it's that we hold on to things
too long.
And we finger, like I said on Sunday, like a sore, we're playing with a scab on our leg and we play with it. And it's not good for us. We just need to let it go. Because, people have to tell themselves, I deserve the best. I deserve to be the best person God created me to be. And I'm going to work on myself and pray that my husband or my wife or my children work on their issues and so on. But there's so many things, hypersensitivity and holding on to things and not forgive. We haven't even talked about forgiveness. Wow. It's a huge issue in marriage.
Big part.
Unforgiveness. Oh gosh. I had to learn to forgive my father and let it go. That's why I could go eventually and pray for him. And pray I did and commit him to the Lord, and he passed away eventually. Wow. But even my mother, I had to say my mother hurt me as well, because she had me after she had a son before, my older brother, to the same boy, because they were just teenagers when my older brother was born, and by the time I came they were like 20, 21. And so I felt that they were thinking more about themselves, and they were not thinking about the possibility of having a child. So I remember one of the lecturers in graduate school said sometimes, I might have been the therapist, I said sometimes the person who hurt you the most is not the person you hate the most, is the person you love the most. Because the person who loves us the most have greater power to hurt us even more than the person who hates.
Exactly.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just a slight. Sometimes you were hungry, you went, Mommy, I'm hungry, I need something to eat. But I don't have time for you. Oh my God, what's wrong with Mommy? And that just cuts like a knife. You're hungry and you need something. Sometimes you're crying, you just need somebody to hug you and put an arm around your shoulder. You need your father to say, that's my son. Okay, son, come. Daddy's here. Or you're just late for school or whatever. And they shout at you. So simple things, and it affects you for 40 years later. Unforgiven, never dealt with. But that's a whole different time.
Man, Pops, it's a delight to have you on the program as usual, and we can't wait to have you back in St. Martin. And my wife kept quiet today, my people.
It was good to be on the listening end to the Pops. It was good.
She decided to keep quiet today. Now,
I had
Sunday.
100 questions going through my head, but I thought it best to just sit and listen. It was good to listen.
Sunday is her baptism day.
Well,
it was good listening.
I didn't get to hear her, so I'm going to leave wounded. I'm going to...
it was good to listen to you, Pops. It was good to listen.
No problem. I know that. That's fine.
But my people, Peter, who do we have on the line as we try to bring it down? Let me make sure I greet all of you who are online looking at us. Thank you so much. Those of you who are on TV Carib later on looking at us, we appreciate your presence. Remember to share this with someone because we are about making marriage spicy, dicey, and wonderful. And you don't know who we can help in the process. So make sure that you share when this video is released. And we have persons from St. Martin, we have from Martinique, and those of you who are online, we have from St. Vincent,
Martinique.
We have from the States.
Parlez-vous le français?
Yeah, we have
persons from Guadeloupe as well. They just dropped off.
Yeah, Guadeloupe was in the house and they went off. And then we have persons here online from the United States, persons from Dominica, persons from Beckway. And different parts, and some persons from right here. We really appreciate your presence.
Somebody was listening to us at the Miami airport. Safe travels.
That is Paul. Yes, that's Paul. I saw it, but I couldn't respond at the time. So, Paul, thank you.
Tina is also there. I think Tina is in Pennsylvania, Florida, somewhere about.
Wow.
But Tina is also listening.
I think so. Yeah.
And Brother Osman as well.
Yes.
We have a few listeners.
From the States, so in the States right now. So, my dear wife, give your final comment, and I ask Pop to give his final comment, and we wrap it up.
I know that you would have enjoyed today's discussion, really. Not just enjoyed, but you would have been taught a lot. I mean, we always do, but today was kind of on a different level, and as was mentioned earlier, if things were brought up or you find yourself in that same position now where you have been wounded and it was brought over into your marriage, help is available. So get the help that you need and get it quickly. God bless you. Enjoy your Tuesday afternoon. We'll see you next week.
Pops, any last words from you?
The main thing I want to leave with people, your marriage is only going to be as good as you are. Your marriage is only going to be as good as you are. Your marriage can't go higher than the two of your husband and wife and husband. So if you are operating, living your life at number 5 out of 10, your marriage cannot be 7 out of 10. It's going to be 5 or less, actually less. And so it's a principle we need to learn for life, that life and those we interact with and serve can't be greater than who you are. You bring yourself to marriage, and whoever you are in the marriage is that's what is going to come out in the marriage. So work on yourself. You work on your marriage, and your marriage works on you. It works both ways. You work on it, and it works on you. It impacts you because you're two people together, and God wants to make you a better person. So aim high. I'm a person who believes in excellence in everything. So aim high. Don't settle for less. Reach for the stars. And if your spouse doesn't want to go to healing, you go. For yourself, for your children, for the rest. And let God work on that person. Don't harass them and call them names. Just work on yourself for the glory of God.
Amen. Pops, thank you so much again for being here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I could not say it better. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Marriage and More program. We're going to be back with you next week, Tuesday, same time, right here on the number one gospel radio station, Faith FM, faithfmonline.com. Share the link with share it with somebody and share the live with someone. And remember, as we always say, you're only going to have the marriage that you work for. So work for the one that you want. Dr. Nanton signing out. Do have yourself a blessed day today, a blessed week. Until next time, you'll hear from us again. God bless you nicely. Bye-bye.
Amen.
Wow.
Those of you join us online, thank you so much for being there. Next week, by the grace of God, we'll be back with you. God bless you nicely.